there, and welcome to the Modern Day Mirror podcast. We're reviving the lost art of storytelling with true stories from listeners just like you. We're here for the humor, nostalgia, the lessons, and to reflect each other's light as modern day mirrors. Hey everyone, it's your host Cecilia. We're featuring stories with unexpected outcomes this first season of the podcast, and today's guest, it turns out, had lots of surprises up her sleeve. Early last week, a bright-eyed storyteller with a modest following showed up in my TikTok algorithm. She seemed funny and kind, and while I hadn't propositioned a stranger on social media before, I got an intuitive nudge to send her a message asking if she'd be interested in sharing one of her stories on the podcast. Carolyn and I were on a Zoom call just 30 minutes later, and I was shocked to learn about the series of life events that made it possible for me to find this professional volleyball player / doctor of physical therapy / popular Instagram creator on my feed. I found out she only recently began storytelling on TikTok as a way to create more connection in her life. And oof, does she have lots of experience to pull from. As a heads up for listeners, today's episode includes brief mention of struggles with mental health and disordered eating. Here is Carolyn.
My parents really wanted to go on a trip to Lake Tahoe because we lived, in California. This was when I was in 8th grade. My sisters were going to a volleyball camp. My mom and dad were like, hey, could you just go to this camp with your sisters? And I am 6'1". Soccer wasn't doing it for me anymore. I looked like a giraffe trying to run down the freaking soccer field. I looked like I didn't know how to coordinate my body in 8th grade. I look like a noodle man,
Okay.
Good visuals here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, maybe soccer isn't the best. And this is back then when they didn't have a girls soccer team. Girls had to play on the boys soccer team. So I was like, I'm done with this. They're barely putting me in. Fine, I'll go to this volleyball camp. I went to it. Everybody was like, you're so good, because I was taller. I was like, you know what? Maybe let me try volleyball. So I'm from a really small town. I played volleyball 8th grade year, loved it, crushed it, got really good, went into my freshman year, made varsity right away. Volleyball was my path, right? It was smooth sailing. And then I got a national letter of intent. I played volleyball in New York. That's where I went to play Division I. Tore my ACL actually right after I signed my national letter of intent. So basically my contract saying I can play, but thankfully they kept my contract. And then transferred 2 years later because they were kind of horrible to me. Very common, Division I story. I could go pretty much anywhere I wanted. And University of North Florida and was like, we're starting a sand program. And this is when beach volleyball started in college. And I was like, I want to do sand. I've never done that before. Why not? Let's try that. And I freaking loved it. I got to learn sand volleyball 3 hours a day, every day. And I took to it. I was so excited. There's only 2 people on the court. And so the strategy that you have to be, and I'm a big game player, I'm very competitive. And so strategy is a big part of my life. It's like playing chess on the volleyball court. That's what it is. You have to read the other person. You have to predict kind of what they're going to do. And you have to run plays based on what you think that they're going to do so that you can kind of get in their head. Oh my God, it was so much fun. I live for that.
Yeah.
And so I got to bring mindset. I was missing my emotional intelligence in sports. I grew up in a house that was very logical based. We didn't really talk about our feelings. We didn't really talk about much. And I could only think in this physical world and be very logical as a person. Growing up, I always felt like I had to be the best at everything, super competitive with everybody. It was black and white, right? On off switch, yes, no. There was no gray area. There was no feelings. And so I was very good at sports. I would get frustrated. And then if you can get me frustrated, I would see red. You would not be able to you would win the game after I got frustrated. But basically went through college and then I was like, I'm kind of done with volleyball. I thought like I had to just drop volleyball and go get my doctorate. So I got my doctorate, kind of played a little bit here and there. But then after I got my doctorate, is when I kind of was like, well, let me see if I can go pro. So I qualified for a few tournaments pro, and that was so much fun. And that just solidified volleyball for me in the way that it was like I have the strategy of the game, I have the skill of the game, and then I have like also the mindset and the mental like fortitude basically,
Yeah.
or flexibility really. Like you can be more flexible with what comes through. And then I was like, I'm gonna go get my doctorate at the best like school. Went to WashU, which is like number one in the nation for PT school. And I was like, this is great. I am living my best life. I get into the PT world and it's kind of a buzzkill. Right. It's kind of a buzzkill because it's mostly structured around corporate. And basically, you get 2 patients an hour, sometimes 4 patients an hour, and you don't really get to work with them that well. And it's just like, here's a few exercises, go and do your thing. I
Mhm.
had this self-righteous, like, I'm going to change the world a little bit around
Sure.
like getting my doctorate
Mhm.
and helping people. And then when I got into the business, it didn't matter that I was WashU. Like it didn't matter that I had gotten this prestigious doctorate. I was just on the assembly line to help people in a way that just was so unfulfilling for me.
Mhm.
And it made me feel like I was literally just transcribing corporate BS to these patients. And within the short time that I had with them, it felt like I could give them a piece of me and a part of my character and a part of my personality, but that could only go so far. And I only have so much of myself to give. I was spreading myself thin. I also had an eating disorder. I was bulimic for 8 or 9 years. And around the time I started working is when I decided I was going to get help for my eating disorder. An eating disorder, everybody thinks is just food based, and they don't understand the emotional toll that it really is. It's like you can't feel your own emotions. And so once I decided I could feel my own emotions, I was able to actually like help other people more in physical therapy. Because if you think about it, when someone gets hurt, there's a lot of fear around it. There's a lot of unknown that you can really help to educate and hold space for them to feel a little bit better about themselves and the direction of where their care is going. That really helped me understand a little bit more as a physical therapist that, wow, like I can help people not just physically, but also like mentally and emotionally. The more I gained confidence in myself through this eating disorder recovery, I was like, oh, I'm actually worth something. Because I used to just think I was a piece of shit. Like you would think, oh, this person that's gone pro, this person that got their doctorate, like that they would just think that the world of themselves. No, I hated myself.
Mhm.
And so the more I started to love myself, the more I was like, oh, I'm really good at my job. I love what I do, and I'm gonna freaking do it out on my own. So I started my business. This was a year and a half ago. I live in St. Louis, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything about business, but I decided you see everybody on Instagram, or like if you look at physical therapists and you look at their stories, it's just like, oh, do you have Achilles pain? Do
Yeah.
this exercise, right?
Very localized. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that does not like, I am not a cookie cutter person. Like, I am the type of person that I like live outside of like what everyone wants me to do. That's just who I am. And so I decided I loved movement analysis. That's big on like gait analysis, movement analysis. I've always loved that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And I started a Instagram that was movement analysis, and people absolutely loved it. Like I'm not even 1 year in. I'm 3 months into my business and it starts getting 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers, 3,000 followers. Like, and I didn't pay a cent to Instagram. Like I didn't buy anybody. Like people are just popping off like love your stuff. And there's always the trolls, and
Sure.
it was always, I will tell you this, to this day, it is always the young males that are either in PT school or just out of PT school or personal trainers.
Oh,
That it fits the mold of like the person that will troll me.
they're indoctrinated. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I just kind of go, wow, they're really insecure about what they're bringing to the table, and that's okay. I don't have to fix them. I don't have to fight with them. I'm just going to ignore it and also like hold that as a boundary of like you're not going to like make me feel bad about what I'm doing. So my Instagram just started popping off and I was like, this is amazing. I got up to like 90 something thousand followers. Right now it's at like 88.8 because around February, I started having like a spiritual awakening. This was actually, I started having one kind of like November, December of last year. This was 2023. I started like having a spiritual awakening. And for what that means to me is I started to like see different things. Like I started to see synchronicities in life. And I think it all started when I started my business, right? It started like you have enough courage, you have enough love for yourself to do these things for yourself and to help others. And it just kind of like segued into more of things just opening up for me. I kind of lost my way. I think I got a little power hungry and I kind of was like, I don't need Instagram anymore, or I don't want to do it. I'm exhausted from it. I don't know what to do with my business. Maybe I'll go into a space. And so I tried that and I was like, this space isn't for me. It didn't feel like my community. It didn't feel like my niche at all. I kind of got lost because I think I grew so quick. I grew so quick, so fast in 1 year that I was scared to fail because of all the things that I have done before. And I actually went to an astrologist because, okay, and mind you, before like 5 years ago is when I got my eating disorder like recovery. 5 years ago, if you would have told me about a spiritual awakening, if you would have told me about astrologists, you would have told me any of this, I'd be like, you're insane.
Yeah.
Like, go over there. Like, you're cuckoo. I
Yeah.
don't adhere to any of those things. Like the chair is there because the chair is there. It's physical, you know? And I
Sure.
didn't understand there's a physical world basically, and then spiritual world and beyond everything else.
Yeah.
And so I'm, knee deep in all this spiritual stuff. And I'm like, how did this even happen? Like, I've started my own business. I'm into this spiritual stuff.
Because you did start down the physical therapy path kind of before you've had this additional enlightenment and inspiration, has it influenced the way that you are with patients or help patients or even just maybe the way that it feels for you?
Even before my eating disorder recovery, which I would say was like because I had to handle that stuff before I even got to the spiritual awakening stuff. Like I deeply feel that way. I
Mm.
had to feel my own feelings for me to at least accept myself to go through all of this. And like before when I started my career, someone like tore their ACL and they're like, 9 months of rehab that they have to do and they're exhausted, not sleeping well because they're having to wear this brace. She's crying and like I couldn't handle my own emotions. So I was like, here's a box of tissue. And I walked away because I didn't know how to handle
Yeah.
someone else's emotions and no one showed me how to do that. And so I just like waited till she was done crying and then came back and was like, okay, now we're going to do this exercise. Looking back, I will tell that story for the rest of my life because I am able to now be like, oh, hold on 1 second. Let me grab the tissues. Okay, talk to me about this. Like, yeah, you're frustrated, dude. I would be so mad too. I just go in and like talk to them and hear their stories. And sometimes people will be type A personalities, right? They will just be so rigid and so tough. And like when I'm doing exercises for them, I have to structure my PT so differently. And I wouldn't have done this prior to my spiritual awakening. I wouldn't have done this prior to anything else because I would have just been like, you have this problem and and then I would almost go through the catalog of exercises and just be like, these are all the appropriate exercises for this injury, right? And now I don't look at it like that. I go, you have this problem, but you are this type of personality and you look at the world this way, because that's just what I would do from a subjective standpoint, right? Like I'm sitting there chatting with them, talking with them, and I'm picking up. I look at conversations like threads and like, oh, you played volleyball. Oh, I could pull on that thread. You did the same thing in your podcast. Oh, you did this. I'm going to pull on that thread. So you're just cataloging like what they're saying when they're talking, being like, I could pull on that thread next. And so generally when someone is the type A type person, they're going to have a little bit more tension in their body. And so they're going to be someone that I'm going to have to do more relaxation type exercises with, and getting them to, because they're going to go, I want to just exercise my way out of this, like I'm just going to put everything at it and like it's just going to get better. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because you're creating tension. You need tension, rigidity. Type A's do. They just need tension and rigidity. They can't just let go. They can't just rest. They can't just relax. So they're people that I'm like kind of like slowing the physical therapy down a little bit and having to be like, look, you could just exercise your way around this as much as you want, but like this isn't going to help. So you can do the short-term thing or you can do the long-term thing. And so I'm trying to get people to understand change your body for the better is actually like tapping into not just your personality characteristics and everything, but then also how the pain goes. The opposite side would be somebody like, let's just say a yogi or somebody that is a little bit more of a people pleaser. I can tell them right away. They look like they don't have a lot of muscle tone.
Mm-hmm.
And usually those are the ones that don't have a lot of boundaries in their life. They let people walk all over them. And so those are people that I am going to be like, go at it full steam, right? Like do these exercises and like put a barbell in your hand, put a weight in your hand, because they're not used to kind of holding space for themselves, and they're not like used to like working out in a way that is like, I'm getting strong. I'm doing this for me, right? The spiritual awakening and everything and that connection with people has really taught me to basically mirror. That's why I love your podcast. It's like a mirror. It's mirroring what people need for themselves and then structuring my care behind that. So I literally am mirroring, okay, you are this rigid person. That's where we're going to start your care. And then I'm going to work back from, okay, these are the exercises you need to do, but this is the intention behind the exercises because of what you are, who you are specifically. So now some of the spiritual awakening has gotten me to write some poems, and I have never written in my life. And I think it would be kind of cool to like share one of them on here.
Yes.
I think I was like in my feelings. It was one of those times that I was just like, I am feeling rough and I just have these lingering feelings of rejection and abandonment. And then I was like, well, let me just put them down on paper based on like how I see them. And for some reason, it was like some type of stream of consciousness that I've never had before. And I was like, I don't know where these are coming. Like I knew where they were coming from, which is my experiences, but it was almost like I kind of joke about like Minority Report or like a jigsaw puzzle or a tapestry, right? You're seeing all these pieces everywhere. And I'm like,
Yes.
I'll grab that one and put it in here and I'll sew this one in there. And I've never written in my life. I used to hate English, and it's some of the coolest friggin' stuff I've ever written. And like that, I know it's like crazy. One of the first things I wrote, I'm going to share it with you. It's about rejection, because growing up, I've always been rejected from my father. And I think that's where all of it started. And I finally was like, I don't have to feel that anymore. I can assume that this happened. I can like accept that it happened, that I was rejected. And like, you know what? I don't adhere to that anymore. That's not my story anymore. I want to be understood. That's what it is I want so badly for someone to understand me. And so I seek to understand other people so wholeheartedly. And that's how it comes across in my poems. Rejection sears into my soul like a cigarette burn on the skin. I am branded like cattle, showing the world that my owner holds the reins. Just like a horse pulling a buggy, rejection follows me, cracking its whip as it whispers, do better, be better. I plead to it how hard I am trying. As I tire, it steers me on my path like the alpha male of a wolf pack leading from the back. I always know it is there, and it protects me when it thinks I'm in danger. But in the frenzy of an attack, it mistakes me for the enemy and lunges with its teeth bare. Its fangs pierce my soul, sinking into the core of my beliefs. I feel the pain, the emptiness of the words never said and the love never shared. It drowns me like a brick tied to my ankle as I sink to the bottom of the sea. As I hold my breath, rejection is there, squeezing the last drops of life out of me. I scream under the water, forcing sounds to form its name, eradicating the brand on my soul. As I take one more attempt for air, knowing it will be my last, I realize I have never breathed so deeply.
Wow.
I have probably 50 of these that I've done in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
That's how short of a time it's been, and I'm just like, "You know what? Like, I might publish." I don't know if I wanna be a physical therapist anymore. I don't know. I know I love helping people. I know I'm really good at what I do. I'm also like, I'm not sure if this is my path. I feel, like, deeply that I'm meant for something big. I just don't know what it is yet, and I just need to, like, the biggest thing that's, like, in my face is, like, trust. Just trust, go with the flow, do what you wanna do, but this is never in a million years would I have ever thought that my life would be the way it is right now.
We are so grateful to Carolyn for sharing her story this week, and we're excited to see what unfolds next for her. You too can follow along Carolyn's journey on TikTok or Instagram, both linked in the show notes. And that is where you can also find all things Modern Day Mirror, including more information on how you can be our next guest. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for being here.